Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2025 Diamondstein Spielvogel Lecture. This lecture series provides a forum for distinguished artists to discuss the genesis and evolution of their work in their own words. Dr. Barbara Lee Diamondstein Spielvogel and the late Honorable Carl Spielvogel generously endowed this series to make such conversations available to the public. Today we have the honor of hearing from the preeminent artist Chakaia Booker. Booker became a prominent figure in the New York art scene early on in her career, known for her wearable art and striking appearance. She is part of a long legacy of artists who use found objects to create assemblage sculptures, but her work is singular in many respects. In particular, her innovative adoption, manipulation, and transformation of a humble everyday material, the rubber tire, over nearly 4 decades. Since the late 1980s, she has been captivated by tires and their different shades of black, range of tread patterns, and surface finishes that vary from rich and lustrous to dried and cracking. However, her abstract style transcends the material origins of her work, evoking a variety of themes: African cultural practices, Black diasporic histories of survival and resilience, industrialization and factory labor, transportation, consumerism, and especially the environment, the subject on which our tower exhibition, Treading New Ground, is based. Born in Newark, New Jersey in 1953, Booker earned a BA in sociology at Rutgers University in 1976 and an MFA in sculpture and painting at the City College of New York in '93. She was featured in the 2000 Whitney Biennial and has received several prestigious honors, including a Joan Mitchell Foundation grant in 1995, an Anonymous Was a Woman Award in 2000, a Pollock Krasner grant in 2002, and a Guggenheim Fellowship in 2005. Her work is included in over 40 public collections, such as the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Whitney Museum of American Art, Brooklyn Museum of Art, and Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. She has had solo exhibitions at notable institutions, including the Institute of Contemporary Art, Miami, National Museum of Women in the Arts, Georgia Museum of Art, and Kemper Museum of Contemporary Art, among others. Lastly, in Booker's own words, her art, quote, suggests the many dimensions of human adversity and the hope for internal awakening, which can lead to positive change only through collective effort, end quote. These are powerful words that resonate with many of us today, especially as art lovers and supporters. They remind us that appreciating art is not a mere pastime. It has the potential to transform us and improve our world. Please join me in welcoming Chakaia Booker.
Hi, everybody. Hello. I'm over here. I'm going to be moving around as I usually do when I do talks like this. Wasn't that a wonderful video? I played it first. It's one of those things where you can talk about things, but being also to be able to see the visual is certainly very helpful. So now you'll be able to see art that was made in that time and have a memory of what that time looked like. Yes, born in Newark, hospital's not there anymore, moved to another part of the town, but raised in East Orange. I grew up with a lot of sewing and a lot of cooking from scratch. I think some of the elements that you'll see in the works that were done prior to and today sort of reflects that idea of making small pieces that go together to make a larger format. And that's the way I tend to do work at this time, making modular components and being able to put them together to make a larger one. My sister, I'm the youngest of 3. My oldest sister, she was always very functioned more in a traditional way. When it came to patterns, it was always following exactly for the right thread, the layout, how you press seams out. I was more fluid, let's say. My intention of what I did, I was always more taller, a little broader than my other two sisters, but it was one of those things of being able to take something apart and reassemble it either into something new and different or something that at least would fit. My aunt, she was really good because she would let me come into her sewing area with just bundles of fabric and material. And she was very patient to try to help me to figure out how to get these things together. When it came to my sister, very less tolerant. She just wanted everything to be exact. My grandmother, she was just happy that I had found something that was of interest for me. And my mom, sometimes it was a little difficult kind of to pinpoint her down. She didn't necessarily do the hands-on, but she does have her Vogue magazine in between the sheets. So when I go to visit her, she still got her copy, coming in the mail. Going to school for sociology, it was just as the moments are now, just sort of happened haphazardly in a sense. Was there a plan? No plan. The plan was to, of course, keep going. At a certain point, I was interested, I did the wearable art pieces that I did at home. At some point, when I graduated from undergrad, a friend gave me a piece of pottery that was no bigger than maybe 3-4 inches. But it was something about getting this thing in my hand that sort of resonated me to want to explore looking for places to do ceramic, which I found coming into New York City. Making pots and bowls, and at some point realizing that I wanted to go bigger, and where that idea sort of happened, I'm not quite sure where. I just sort of woke up one day and just decided that, okay, I want to go big. I don't want to just make things that are just human size or just things that you can hold in your hand. So I started deconstructing those pots to make sculptural pieces. So at one point, just thinking back about going to graduate school, at that particular time, before that time, you didn't really, I guess the MFAs didn't exist. But then all of a sudden, it was something that you needed to have if you wanted to go into particular careers in order to be able to be accepted, teaching at a university or any other art institution. So the idea of either going back to school, get the paper, come out so I can get that job, in my heart mind, I was thinking that it would be nice to create sculpture. I didn't really know what that meant, and it's and the consistency of what sculpture is keeps rotating around to so many different ideas and thoughts and directions. But I went for my interview. So the person who saw me first suggested, well, you're familiar with clay, why don't you do something else? And of course, I wanted to do sculpture, but I knew I needed a job. So I went to my second interview. The person looked at me across the desk, and he says, okay, what do you want to do? So in my mind, I'm thinking, what's cheap? I have no money. So I'm trying to think of, what can I do to do something? So he looked at me and he said, this is not high school. When you come here, you should know what it is you're going to do. You should get in here and do it and get out. And so, of course, these were moments that were going by, and of course I was startled like hell, trying to think of, when you see painters, they have these little bitty bags, and they come out with these super expensive paints. But then thinking about sculpture, you could get a truck, and you can get lots of wood and pieces. So, he's staring me down, and then eventually I just shouted, sculpture. So there I was, committed. I guess I sort of stumbled upon the tire amongst all of the other debris that was out there in the city streets of New York. There was always a car fire every single weekend. I live in East Village, and there was always a fire. And so going around and seeing these pieces of material that would transform from one look to the other was interesting. So I started bringing these things home and making smaller pieces. But then with the idea of being in graduate school, I said, well, I want to go big. So I started thinking of what material would be something that would be affordable or accessible that I could use to make outdoor work. So all of a sudden, when the tire became something more of just a slight interest level, I did get into graduate school at City College, and I started using the rubber tire to use as a surface treatment for a lot of the works. Weaving was something else that I also began to work with, the different materials. I think with the sewing, the cooking, thinking of having all of these different components, all these different textures, and these different things that I would see on a regular, not like going to, a place like today and ordering Grubhub or something, You really had to go to the store, clean it, understand how you would want to chop, which is more likely a zillion different ways in preparation of the materials. And then with the fabrics and the different with the different patterns and how they would overlap. You have pockets, you have linings. So it was this whole kind of feel of the way I'm working now as far as utilizing those thoughts and ideas with the way I'm working in prints and also with the tires. Doing things in layers, having different base structures, and so on. So, blue and yellow yoke was one of those woven pieces, and I would make them, but I would also wear them and use them myself. But also they became sculptural pieces that then could be presented on armatures or attached to walls. Untitled pieces, but I would make them, they would be pieces that I would actually wear. These are pants, but then they became things that I would be able to use to make sculptural pieces that would either hang from the wall, be a single piece, or multiple pieces that I would put together. an untitled ceramic piece. Usually I would take the ceramic forms that I would create, deconstruct them, and then reconstruct them again into sculptural forms. This piece, Lee shot, this is a layering of small pieces that would be 3 or 4 inches, and then I would string them together and then stack them up. So sometimes they would either be stacked to themselves or either other armatures to show and hold them together. I would spend a lot of time going out looking for discarded materials. A lot of times you didn't always have color in them, and so coming back to the studio and being able to paint was a way to bring color back into the work. Okay. Is it moving on its own? Am I getting help up there? Are you clicking or am I clicking? So these are oil paintings. Oh, help. Oh, okay. Thank you. This piece is mother and child. Again, utilizing the wooden crates at that time for the different drinks, and also the chairs that were childlike pieces to make this work. Crutch, another assemblage. A safety pin. Untitled, but this installation is about the homeless people. In the city, there were either lots of people who were either disabled or people who were crippled, and of course, people who died in the city. Hear, speak, and see no evil. And interesting, when I started making larger pieces, it was difficult to get these little sheets of paper to put behind them in order to get a background. And one of my friends just suggested that I just paint the back of the wall. Untitled assemblage using bedposts to create this work. Another assemblage. So yeah, so I would go out every day. And I would spend a few hours looking around. I mean, at that particular time, there was just garbage everywhere. It didn't matter what part of the city you traveled in, there was always something. So you had to come prepared, because if you saw something you wanted, if you didn't take it right then, it would not be there. I mean, I was at my home, I was going to a party, a friend wanted to borrow my table. I took the table, I took it outside, forgot something, went back inside, and when I came out, it was gone. So, blackbirds, another assemblage using the charred wood, medicine cabinet, and a painting easel. And this person I worked with, she was telling me that she was going to adopt a couple of boys who were blind. And so when I heard her story, I made this piece. Another untitled assemblage using rusted paint containers, and then the fixtures that you normally would have used for fluorescent light bulbs to make the base. Target. This particular piece, do you know those big rolls that you see with the wires when they're doing work outdoors? Well, I took one of those and rolled it back up to my studio. The information that's incised in wood is of the last token, the coin token that they used in New York. And so the metal going around it are fishing hooks. Mother-daughter competition, going home one day and saw the two figures of this material that was very flexible to be able to bend to make the two figures. This is the gynecologist visit. And again, finding rebarb that they use in the sidewalks or building structures, some plastic, a meter, and a mop straining handle. Mirror, mirror. This is probably one of the first pieces using the whole tire. Window box. We were in school. Well, they used to lock us in the building. We'd have to call security when we wanted to enter or leave. And my studio had windows that were up very high, so I would go to the window. I would go to the door that had glass windows and look outside to see what kind of activity was going on. It didn't last for long, but they still did it. And so I made this piece called Window Box, just trying to bring the outdoors in. And basically using the bike wheel, shovel, some metal pieces to make this work. Remnant, and this is a wearable vest, but also sculpture. I made this after I ate the oranges, lemons first, and then baked the material and sewed it to make this wearable vest, but also sculpture. So even now when you open up the box, you get that huge smell. And this is neck fetter, which is also made from dried fruit. Power invasion. Going back to the wearable pieces, the material that you see on the front of the vest is material that I swept up from my studio floor and glued it on. And on the inside, you have the boot print and the barefoot. And actually, on the back of the vest itself, there are bones that are attached to the back. In the name of the mother, and these are goat bones made into sculpture. A skull cap, again using the goat bones. Milk carton series. These pieces were, they're like 4 feet by 4 feet and at least 6 feet tall. On the back of each one of them, it had information that talked about health, food, the chaos that's going on, but it had it listed in a way that you would see on a milk carton if you looked at the back of it. And so the interior is made from discarded material that I found and then shaped into the milk carton. And then the exterior, because of a lot of sheetrock gypsum board that you have in some of the rooms, I had to buy. Dialogue with myself. This is one of the first tire sculptures that was put outdoors, and this is at Socrates sculpture park in Long Island City. Untitled female torso breastfeeding herself. And this is the head, that's her head, that's in her lap. And this is the back of the head. Untitled male torso that left this path. This work showed, the image right now was at the Studio Museum in Harlem when they first, I was there in 95, 96, and they did a renovation, had an open patio area that they used for the sculpture. So this was one of the pieces amongst some other artists who participated in the opening. And this also showed at the René Sofia Museum in Spain. And then again, still interested in large works. So, well, it was interesting because things, keep evolving. I was at City College. At one point, they were a lot more aggressive with helping artists to get works done using the assistance of other people in other departments. But it wasn't there when I got there. But anyway, so this one, mending plate, this is like 15 feet by 15 feet. And clamp. And pacifier. So the idea was to go across the campus, putting out these sculptures wherever I could go. Yes, pacifier. Dorothy's shoes. It's one of those days, you got people complaining about being in New York. And they were talking about, they wanted to, they at least knew where home was for them and they wanted to leave. But I made Dorothy's shoes just thinking on that whole process of thinking about knowing where home is, to be able to click your heels and be able to go. Repugnant Rapunzel, let down your hair. This work showed at the White House. That's when Hillary Clinton was interested in art. So they went cross-country, divided it up into different sections, invited artists to participate by having their sculptures show at the White House. This is the back. The observance, kind of oddly shot, but it's like 40 by 20 feet. Homage to Thy Mother was one of the first of the larger wall pieces that I created at that particular time. And this is the detail. Lyrical gestures in space. Changing distributions. At that particular time, the museums are always very busy and have schedules that are, years out. But what they started doing at that particular time was to go out and find different sites that if they weren't on the museum campus, that they could be somewhere that they could have access to. And so this piece was made for the Queens Museum at the Bulliver Center. Revelations at the Neuberger Museum. And that's the same piece in the back, Echoes in Black, but it was different. So the smaller pieces that you saw on the inside was developed and made into another installation, and then this became another installation. So this is Echoes in Black, Industrial Cicatrization, the piece in the back, and then these were other installations that was made for that show. Industrial Perpetuosity at the Neuberger. They usually had different public art showing, either yearly or biennial. It's a detail. And doing public art is very tricky. With that particular piece, we didn't realize that 6 inches down below was water. So when we came back the next day, the sculpture had started sinking. so we had to get blocks to do something to catch it so it wouldn't sink down too far. But that's why you ask lots of questions. The conversationalist, and this is at Socrates Sculpture Park in Long Island City. And they have a nice program for anyone who's interested in wanting to do public art. This is the side. Nomadic warrior. Pioneer. I also was interested in photography, and so mixing the images with the tire elements was also a part of a series. Waiting for Daddy, and this is the goat bones on top of the image, the photo images. The real McCoy, which is bone in a tube, and the images of the photos. And I'm not sure where that piece is. I think I might have found the body of it, but I'm not sure what the other part is. Well, that's what happens after a while. Sorry. Usually with sculptors, they can have stuff everywhere. Not That Daughter. And again, the photography and the collaging and putting pieces together. I mean, all of that, if you can imagine, growing up with all of these different patterns. So you get simplicity, you get Vogue, you get butter, something. So you have all of these papers and sheets and things, and you would be putting all this stuff together. Mars Rising. Again, NASA had a really wonderful art program, and this was one of the pieces that was done for them. And another was called Columbia. Conscious Disorder. Latent Admission at the Snipe Museum in their collection. Serendipity, commissioned by the Public Art Fund for the Metro Tech Center. And this is the side. So this piece is something like 60 feet long, 25 feet wide, and about 14 feet tall. Wrench Wench at Cedarhurst Center for the Arts. It's So Hard to Be Green. She's right upstairs. She's just turned 25. Raw Attraction, which is at the Met and their collection. Yearnings Unchecked. And when you're thinking about working in public art, sometimes you might want to consider other materials than the one that you're working in, because you can have something even in paper that could, be translated and made into bronze. But you have to have the money. The Nest. Spirit Hunter. Destiny's Doorman. No More Milk and Cookies. This is at Socrates, not Socrates, at Storm King. Sugar in My Bowl. Two Sides to Daylight. manipulating fractions. This was the first. This is also at Storm King. This is a show that was done for them in 2004. And the piece that was on the plaza in New York City on Broadway, if you haven't seen it, you can look up the Garment District Alliance, and that piece at 35 feet tall, 70 feet long, was made from this piece. So this piece was made for indoors. The Fatality of Hope. Gridlock. It's a series of pieces that was made for Indianapolis outdoors in their downtown center. Takeout. Pass the Buck. The Feeding of Men. Holla. Plus or minus. And these last couple of ones was from the same exhibition in Indianapolis downtown. Conversion, which is now at the Tweed Museum. One Way at the Delaware Art Museum. Sustainable Hope. Tailgating. Wave at Washington Park between Bergen and Jersey City. So again, they did not want the rubber, but what they wanted was the energy from the work. And so this piece was created. Initially, they thought, too, people were going to come with a can opener and cut it up and take it to a place where they get money for metal. But it's still there. Foci at Storm King. And this piece is like 30 feet tall. And this is, it's 30 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet. Brick House, which is at Crystal Bridges in Arkansas right now. And Deja Vu at Pyramid Hill Sculpture Park in Ohio. Oh, shaved portions. This is what the other one looked like or would have looked like, but this is made for outdoors. So stainless steel, metal, and fasteners. And this is where it was in New York on Broadway at 39th and 40th Streets. And so the two sides look like this kaleidoscope kind of feel. And topped at 35 feet tall. And this is where your tires go. It was interesting, somebody sent me a postcard decades ago, and it had this image on it. And so I would tell people, oh, you should see it. So finally they said, why don't you just make a picture and get a slide? And so I started adding that on. And it was very difficult because at first I didn't know what it was and what I was looking at. Oh, sorry. When I first saw the postcard, I didn't know what it was I was looking at. And now, from then to now, you can find plenty of those online. But it's, I think there's probably not too many states left that don't have a place like this. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I think we have at least 10 or 15 minutes for questions if you have any, and there are microphones on either staircase where you can speak so that we can all hear your question.
Can you talk about the tools that you feel liberated your sense of form? Because these are untraditional tools, I'm guessing. Things that...
Anything to stay sharp. Yes.
I tried to cut up tires before, and that's not easy to do. So I was just wondering if you can tell us what tools you use, or?
Anything that stays sharp.
And you've avoided injuring yourself.
Say it again.
And I hope you've avoided injuring yourself.
You heal.
Wow. Hi, thank you, Chakaia Booker. That was a wonderful talk and taking us through the journey of your career from like early until now, and the public art pieces are beautiful and monumental, so thank you. And also sharing that you have an interest in designing your own garments and what you wear and turned into sculpture. So I'm kind of just curious, has any fashion designer ever approached you for a collaboration, or how do you feel about collaboration and your fashion in general? Thank you.
Why, you know someplace?
I mean, I would wear it. I mean, there's like so many collaborations. I mean, they're fashion, like either high fashion or like, sneaker companies do, collaborations with artists and designers. Takashi Murakami like comes to mind with Louis Vuitton. But any kind of like, fashion collaboration that could bring some of these wearable garments to like life and let us wear a vest and a skull cap with bones, and it's very high fashion.
Sure.
Out. No, I'm just putting it out there.
So you're asking me if...
Has anyone ever approached you, and how would you feel if they did?
No.
No?
No.
Would you do it?
Of course.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I would wear it.
You're welcome. You don't turn down a good opportunity. Yes.
Now, but I think the East Village has become pretty gentrified, so I don't know that there's like a car fire every weekend. But so how do you source your materials now? Has your process changed? Do you still sort of roam and look for things, or do you have a more sort of structured way of like getting materials now that you...
Something you definitely pick it up. But going to car places or people who change tires, lots of tires, is a good source. And then talking with different companies like Michelin and Goodyear to get like racing car tires has been something that's been very helpful, because it's not something you just find on the street. But no, but if I was starting today, no, it wouldn't be the same outcome. Yes.
How do you get the tires to your studio?
I didn't hear that.
How do you get the tires to your studio?
How do you get the tires to your studio? How do you get things?
How do I get them to my studio? Well, sometimes walking, sometimes a car, and sometimes a big tractor trailer that's coming to my studio in a couple of days. Is that it?
How big is your studio?
Well, when I first started, my studio was under 500 square feet. And then at a certain point, when we saw the landlord was starting to put rug in, then we knew that, the gig was up. But yes, at a certain point, like I said, first starting in my home, in my apartment, still good for studio space. Oh. But yes. What was that? Right, how big is it? Well, right now, what is it? We went down from 65 to 25 square feet. But we had to move out the city, so what am I going to do? Anyone else?
Hi, over here. Hi, Chakaia. Great talk. I'm wondering, would you say that your work is in conversation with Louise Bourgeois? And also, could you talk about some of your influences, not only in art, but maybe music and anything else, dance, whatever?
Well, that's a toughie. There are other people who have worked in rubber, not alive at the moment. But I think it's probably influenced by lots of people and things. To put a name on which one and who and how, I won't do that, but I'll say that it's out there. I mean, even walking down the street, you see, and yeah, I mean, it's just interesting how information can come through to you. Where was I? Somewhere downtown. I wanted to go to the post office. It wasn't the post office I usually go to, but I went in anyway. And this person starts talking to me, and he's telling me exactly what I needed to hear without even asking, not even coming in proposing a question. It was just all of a sudden he's just getting stuff off his chest about his life. It's like, oh, okay, I can deal with that. But yeah, I think even the piece out front, Henry Moore piece, it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I wouldn't just label it to a particular direction or individual, but just to know that it's probably been a lot. It's hard to all of a sudden be in the kind of environment we're living in now and not think that it's probably a whole lot of stuff that we haven't, even just looking out the window and having to turn your head to catch something. So, but, thankful for all that passed my. Yes.
First of all, thank you. It was fabulous work, very impactful. And we actually remembered seeing the frame one here in downtown DC, and so that was great. In the video in the beginning, they talked about, the curator talked about the colors of the tires and how they changed over time and how.
And the manufacturer.
Okay.
So each manufacturer is making their own tone of what that is.
Okay.
So whether it's going to be a gloss or whether it's going to be a matte or it's going to have, whatever that textural feel to it, yes.
Right. So my question is, especially having viewed the Elizabeth Catlin show, where she's very, definitive about the colors of Black women. And your background in sociology, I'm wondering if there's anything that you want people to feel or to take away, if there's almost a theme or energy, as you said, that you are trying to convey. Or
Well,
in your mind, it's abstract art,
Yeah, I think my hope is that they come away with something. I'm not going to dictate what it should be, or should it be solemn, or it should be funny, or it should be whatever, but as long as there's some sort of emotional release, that communication, then I've done my job. And then hopefully people will go back again and see the work, and hopefully wherever they were at that moment, that the moment would be different, and then they can go and be able to make another exchange.
So, thank you so much for your presentation and your work. I'd like to ask a little bit, if you wouldn't mind talking about your process. For example, do you sketch out and design pieces ahead of time? I mean, do you have in your mind what you want them to look like, or do you let the materials really speak to you?
All of the above. I mean, I think when you do public artwork, it's a little different because they kind of force you to, because they need to know about wind load, they need to know about all other kinds of things but it's also hard because you don't know what you're getting. You don't know how thick the tires are. You don't know how thin they are. You don't know what the radius will be when you're having to wrap and put something on. So it definitely kind of puts you in a really hard space to come up with all those answers. But a lot of the pieces that you saw, there was no drawing other than, are they going to stand on their own? Or are they going to be on the wall, big or small, or something freestanding, a pedestal, and then you just go from there.
And then, like with the mother and child ones?
Yeah.
I mean, did you have an objective with them? Or was it, well, here's some chairs, here's some
No, I mean,
raw materials?
when you have materials and things in your space, you're going by them constantly. And so it's almost like every day, every moment, you're channeling in, there's this piece over here, there's something over there, and then finally you go around and like, oh, I'll take these and, make something out of it. Well, at least for me.
For something like It's So Hard to Be Green, how long would you say that took to make?
Well, usually you ask, how much time do you have? And then you work accordingly.
I don't know if you mentioned this, do you have a cleaning process or you just work with them dirty?
I didn't hear that well.
Do you have to clean them or do you just go in and work with them still dirty, the tires?
You do both.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it this way. Most times, unless the tires are going through a lot of mud, they are whipping around and cleaning themselves off a little bit. But both things happen. I mean, and then it also depends on where they come from, where they're coming from.
Yeah. Have you found it's easier to work with tires, like now there's more from China, or has it made it harder?
I'm not hearing that.
Have the tires gotten more difficult now that they're more coming from China versus Mexico, or do you know?
I got the first part. What's the other part?
I'm thinking about like the origin and manufacture of the tires. So have you noticed if it's easier to work with a tire from China or Mexico, or is it
You're
all
saying
the same?
what company?
Yeah.
I think that each company, when they make their brand of tire, there's something special about what that is. So that becomes a part of your language, your dialogue, your history on the material. So it doesn't mean that it's exactly the same, but you may know that, oh, if I get this tire, I might get this from it. Or if I get this one, I get something else. And from the 80s till now, I mean, back then tires were much smaller. When they say they were bald, that means there was nothing left. Now you've got still at least 3 inches of tire where you could have started off with 5. So it has varied over time, and for each year, it's like a painter. A painter has paint, that's their energy they make the work from. With my palette is these textures that help me to create those ideas.
Thank you.
Is there a place in the public that you'd like to see your work placed that you haven't had it placed yet?
Well, a placement of artwork. So my thought is something like, at least at the time that I was beginning, the hope was that there would not be a place where the work couldn't go. So I'm open for everything.
If you're able to go to the microphones on the staircase, that would help so that others can hear your questions. And we have time for about 1 or 2 more questions. Or if you can't get to the mic, if you could yell, that would be helpful too.
No, like I said, each company is making their own product, and and you can't tell, like, if something is this big, is it going to be this thick or is it going to be this thin? You know, and each one will offer a different conversation to do the work. Yes. What are you going to tell a 6-year-old? You know.
I will say, as a preschool teacher, I have talked about your artwork before, but in a way that just kind of says, you know, when you look at something that is so big, when you look at something that has just many shapes, it can, like, you can talk about it in different ways. And in my classroom, there are no black and brown children and white. So we do. So like when your work has come up, there is a chance to kind of push that just a little bit in a way that other kids will think about it. And when they see that black material, or they see something that is soft, they see, you know, a work that's talking about mother and child, they do think about like themselves and color. So I guess it's kind of interesting question. It's just based off of like what you see when you look at your work. But I do want to ask you, like, are people, like, when you are being asked to, like, when you are creating commissions, are you making commissions that are based off of like a message for environmental sustainability? Are you creating art that's based off of like racial identity, or again, are you just making art that's for people to, just like think about themselves?
Well, it's interesting because when work, excuse me, when work is installed, it doesn't always have the name and the plaque next to it, and so even just thinking with that in mind, it'll be up to the individuals to come with who they are at the time, because that makes a big difference. Because when you go back, hopefully you didn't have that headache, or you weren't being rushed from your job, or you weren't, thinking about your kid. You know what I mean? I think that definitely puts you in a different perspective as far as how you want to respond. So I think that for probably anything, if you want to put a particular concept and thought with it, you have that option of doing. But it doesn't mean you can't go back and change your mind and say, uh-oh, no. You let it breathe. So this way you have that option of going in whatever directions you need to for the moment.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chakaia, for your generosity.